The new science fiction series called Battlestar Galactica. Sandy will be talking with Lorne Greene, who is the star of the show, and we'll see some of the remarkable special effects that they'll be using. But right now, I am going to talk with two men who are professionals. They are scientists about science fact, not science fiction. The two men are Dr. Robert Jastrow. He is director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, and Dr. J. Hynek. He is professor emeritus of astronomy at Northwestern University. He is also director of the Center for UFO Studies and the man who originated the phrase close encounters of the first, second, and third kind. And good evening, doctors. Nice to have you with us.
Good evening.
Dr. Jastrow, first of all, what is the possibility, really, of life of some kind on other planets?
Well, nobody knows scientifically, but most scientists, and certainly I, assume that life can't be unique to the Earth. And we therefore assume that the billions of stars around us are, many of them, inhabited.
Inhabited?
Yes.
By what?
Well, by a variety of things, from creeping, crawling, primitive organisms to life far advanced beyond man. And the reason I say that with confidence is that another astronomical fact comes in at this moment. And that is that the universe is far older than the Earth, billions of years older. And most of the stars and planets around us, such as those innumerable points of light that one can see in a photograph of the Milky Way, most of them are either very much younger or very much older than we are. And the younger ones are just worms and jellyfish. The older ones are populated by beings that are as far beyond us as we are beyond the worm.
Do you agree, Dr. Hynek?
Well, they might not even, I would think they might not even have protoplasm. That is, maybe consciousness can exist apart from that if they're a truly advanced civilization. Or is that going too far?
Well, no, I think that that's so, that streams and rivers of pure thought floating in space may be the ultimate mature form of life in the cosmos.
And Dr. Hynek, you think that is a possibility?
Absolutely, yes.
You see, David, the whole trend of evolution has been towards a gradual emancipation of the mind from the body. And I can't see that being interrupted just at the particular level of development we call human.
Dr. Hynek, you have done probably more research on UFOs than anybody in the world. Do you believe that we, on our planet, have had some kind of visitors from outer space?
Let's back up just a little bit, David. There are three incontrovertible facts about this whole UFO situation that even the most ardent skeptic can't refute. One is that UFO reports exist, and they persist. They come from all over the world, 133 different countries we have reports from now in our computerized data bank. And the third is that many of the reports, but though not all, have been made by highly responsible witnesses. So that is our starting point. Now, you have a paradox here. Both Dr. Jastrow and I feel quite confident that the universe may be teeming with life. But that does not necessarily equate with UFOs being that. That's one hypothesis, and that's a hypothesis we have to establish or study. But the very nearest of the stars, that I'm sure that Dr. Jeff is going to explain to us here, the very nearest of the stars is more than 100 million times farther away than the moon. And to get here from there would be one heck of a job.
So are you saying, go ahead, Dr.
No, they must be very advanced creatures to make this trip.
If they have made it, do either of you believe that something, whether it be a consciousness or something physical, has made that trip?
You answer that one.
No, you go first.
Well, there's no evidence of it. That verges onto theology and religion. One has to distinguish between the possible and the probable. It is possible, but I would say improbable.
Improbable.
Mm-hmm. Don't you think it likely that every couple of million years someone drops in to see how the garden is growing?
I like to think that.
And don't you think that the first page of Ezekiel in the Bible really records something that could have been a visit?
I think so. I think Ezekiel had
See, I'm drawing Alan out a little bit there.
One of the first UFO
Our
reports.
colleagues are very, very conservative, but I think that...
But I've always looked upon him as the most conservative colleague, you see.
If life is common in the universe, and it is unless the Creator has put it on this planet alone, we must remember that most of the planets around us on those suns are billions of years older than we, as far beyond us as we are beyond the worm. That's the starting scientific fact.
So I'll add to that then, David, that it could be, following that line, that maybe somebody out there many, many light years away just sitting down and thinking hard and projecting some sort of a force field down here which then manifests as something physical here.
Didn't one of our astronauts on one of the moon missions do some experiments in communicating mentally without the benefit of our usual communications instruments?
Yes.
Edgar Mitchell, I think it was.
Right. What do we have here, Dr. Jastrow?
Well, this all leads to that. The last thought I think that's relevant on a scientific foundation is that we've been broadcasting programs like this for the last 20 years at the million-watt level. And this shell of old television broadcasts has swept past about 100 stars like the sun in that time. And this shows a dozen of the closest stars to the sun, just to visualize this thought. This is supposed to be the sun, this gold sphere in the middle. And these are the dozen or so closest stars as they actually are in space around us. This is the closest one we can see in the northern hemisphere, and Alpha Centauri here is the closest one to the Earth anywhere. That's, by the way, 25 trillion miles away, very far.
From us.
Yes. Now, this shell of broadcast has swept past all of these stars, and from now to the end of the century, in the next 20 years, we should be receiving an answer unless man is alone on this planet, which seems to us unlikely. But the trouble is, we're not listening. Nobody is listening.
Why aren't we listening?
Well, the Congress knocked out I don't want to, you know, I work for NASA, and this sounds self-serving, but it must be a matter of record that the Congress has knocked out all or most of a fairly small appropriation to start listening. But I think man's curiosity will win out, and we will start to listen soon, and we may hear something.
Dr. Hynek, finally, you were the advisor on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and some of the characters that were in the film were based on some drawings of yours. What were those drawings?
Those are sketches. We don't have any photographs of any of the so-called extraterrestrials, but we do have lots of sketches. And those are simply what artists have drawn from the witness's description or the witness himself has drawn. And here is one, for instance, that was submitted from San Jose, California. It looks a little bit like what you saw in Close Encounters. And then we have others that look more like my cousin from West Overshoe, Idaho. But these, all again, we always have to come back to the facts. What is reported? We study UFO reports rather than UFOs, you see. And the
reports are real?
The reports are definitely
Some of them
real.
are UFOs. They're unidentified.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's...
They may not be extraterrestrial. That's Alan's main point.
Yeah, it is. Of course, first of all, 90% of the raw reports are IFOs, identifiable flying objects, right. Venus, advertising planes, things like that. But we're talking about the things...
We have to keep moving in terms of research.
Well, if you have a second, I'd just like to say that the fact that these are so human-like, the humanoid, these drawings you showed, indicates to me that they are probably not real. Because the real life that could reach across the space between the stars is very advanced. It doesn't look anything like us in any manner whatsoever.
Unless they are robots made that way to
calm our fears.
That brings up a whole other subject. Right. Dr. Jastrow, Dr. Hynek, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
And let's go from fact to fiction. We're going to put reality aside for a moment and go with Sandy Hill aboard the fantasy Battlestar Galactica. She is with Lorne Greene. Sandy?
In some respects, this may look like the cockpit of an airplane to you, but it is anything but that. Although there's over $2 million worth of electronic equipment assembled here, its purpose is purely entertainment. That's because this is a stage set at Universal Studios in California, and what you are seeing is the command station of the Battlestar Galactica.
When I hit 3, you hit your reverse thrusters and maximum braking flaps. We'll give them a little surprise.
Lorne Greene, who stars as the commander of the Battlestar Galactica, explained the series to me.
This series is about an outer space civilization. We're the only survivors of this outer space civilization. Our home now is the Battlestar Galactica, and we're looking for a distant planet, a place where they could land and live. Because you see, our 12 planets that have been in existence in outer space for thousands and thousands, perhaps millions of years, have been destroyed by the Cylons. The Cylons are a computer race, and they've destroyed our planets, and they want to destroy us. They want to destroy all human beings.
By your command. All base ships are now in range to attack the colonies. The final annihilation of the life form known as man.
Do you think the public is fascinated with science fiction, though, because it's an extension of reality or because it's pure fantasy?
Well, I think that perhaps the fantasy breeds the reality. Art always comes ahead of the actual happening, doesn't it? People dream up things, and they happen. The Buck Rogers little jet that took him up in the air. We have those today. But some great mind preceded. Clark, the great science fiction writer and scientist, came up with many things 20 years ago, which are now in existence today. Who would have thought of a computer? You know, but necessity brings these about. And some people foresee the necessities. And then they're done, they're made.
Judging from what you're saying and how you're talking about this, it seems that you yourself have been an aficionado of science fiction.
Oh, yes, I'm an aficionado of science fiction, certainly. The fantasy world of it and the possible reality. And when we went to the moon, I was fascinated. I watched that minute by second, you know, as it so many millions of people around the world. But that's only the beginning. That's only the very, very, very beginning. You know, we have a shuttle space program, which in 1982 is going to become operative. And can you see us 50 years, 100 years from now? And we're going on a weekend excursion to 5, 6 planets, and it doesn't cost too much. And we land exactly at 9 o'clock in the morning on the moon. And 6 hours later, our luggage is still on Venus.
It'd be appropriate. It would be a direct translation.
We can do everything except transfer luggage.
You know, I sit here and I talk with you, and I can't help but think about Bonanza. There's no way. Do you think some of the folks out there might have a little trouble disassociating Ben Cartwright
From Commander Adama? Well, I don't know. There I was on the Ponderosa. Here, we're in the big Ponderosa in the sky. Oh. Red alert, that means trouble. Can you run a computer?
What do
Would
you
you please
need me
help
to
me
do?
out on this?
Yes.
Because I think I have to get you back to the bridge. You just hit that button up there. Hit this one here.
Okay.
All right, you're on your own. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lorne and Sandy. It's been a pleasure having you with us this evening for our special evening edition of Good Morning America. Join us Monday morning, won't you, when our guests, in addition to our news guests, will include the actress Deborah Carr and Tom Sullivan, the singer. Also, we'll hear from our regulars, Howard Cosell with sports, Rona Barrett and Jack Anderson, John Coleman with the weather, Steve Bell with, of course, the first news of the morning. And Sandy will be back from outer space. Good night, and make it a good weekend this weekend.